Hey folks. So spring and fall are the busiest times on the homestead for me. Spring is when new life is starting, chicks are being ordered or hatched, the garden is getting started with a ton of seedlings, a ton of soil amendments, and I have just been so busy. So I've been slammed this week with a ton of projects I'm trying to get done before the chicks get here and before we plant out the garden in April. But luckily I have had a ton of help from family and friends this past week, and I kind of wanted to take you guys through and show you all the projects that we've completed and that we've been working on. First, this lovely man built me a brooder box for the 35 Cornish cross meat chickens we have arriving next week. I'd initially planned to use this Frankenstein box that I built a couple of months ago, but he graciously stepped in and decided to build me what I wanted after he saw what I was gonna use. We did not do a tutorial on this box because frankly I was just too busy doing yard work at the time, and also it's not my design. There are several videos on YouTube that have this collapsible brooder design, and that's where I got this idea from. And I'll link them down below, or link at least the one that I used down below so you can see it as well. But it's really simple to make. We just used some old plywood that we had lying around and a circular saw and made it for free. Now the bottom I'm going to use is probably going to be another piece of plywood that I have. I had considered buying some sort of like nylon or plastic wallpaper, just those cheap tiles you can get at Lowe's or Home Depot. But I'm not quite sure I'm actually gonna get to it before the chicks come next Monday-ish. So I'm just gonna file that and I might do it, not for sure. Then yesterday, my mom came over to help me install a drip system, which I have been needing in my garden for the whole time I've had it, so 3 years. Now for the past 3 years, I have watered this garden by hand. It went from taking 30 minutes a day to like an hour and a half last year, and it was absolutely going to take more time than an hour and a half this year, because I'm constantly expanding the garden. We started by running 2 half-inch lines around the garden, which served as our main lines for both the in-ground and the raised beds. We used 1 half-inch drip line down each one of the in-ground raised rows. And then in the raised bed garden, we used a 1/4 inch drip line in each bed. And I did about 4 rows in each bed with a line put horizontally at each foot of the bed. All of the drip line I used had drip emitters at 12 inches. I had thought about getting them spaced closer, like maybe 6 inches, but we'll just see how this works out for now. This is the drip line my mom got me and she recommended 12 inches, so that's what I'll be doing. I always had this trepidation about getting a drip system just because I didn't really know how they worked. It wasn't something that I did a lot of research on compared to other projects I have going, and honestly most of the time I have way too many things going on at once. But my mom really simplified it for me, and I found that it was super easy. She also did all of the research for what kind of line to use, how much pressure I need for my type of soil and all that stuff, so I didn't have to research anything. I learned that for her soil, which is clay, she wants less gallons per hour than I do in my sandy soil. So while she emits near 1/2 gallon per hour, mine actually emits at about 1 gallon per hour, which is supposed to disperse the water over a larger area rather than it streaming through the sand in just one spot. It was a really quick process. It took us probably about 3 hours to complete the whole thing, and then we tested it out and it works awesomely. So I cannot wait until I get all my spring plants planted and I get to use it for the first time. Because I've never experienced what it's like to not water this enormous garden by hand. So that's what we've gotten done this past week. And I also went today to get to forage for some pine needles at my grandfather's house. So I've got 2 bags of this pine needles mulch that I'm gonna end up putting on top of the in-ground garden. So for ease of putting this drip line in, we just laid it across the top. My mom assured me that it's not a drip line that needs to be buried, and I trust her on that. It's like really windy out here, guys. Let me find a spot. We're behind the wall as usual. So it doesn't need to be buried, and frankly, I already planted the potatoes. It needed to get done when it got done. I wasn't gonna wait to be able to do the drip system to plant the potatoes. So that's fine. I just wasn't going to dig underneath the soil to put that drip line in otherwise, because the potatoes are already there. So it's nice that this doesn't need to be buried, but what I'm gonna do is put the pine mulch on top of it for two reasons. Obviously, to cover this drip line. It should help with evaporation in this really hot desert, but also the straw keeps blowing away from the wind. So I need something that will mat and keep the straw mulch down and help protect the soil. So that's what I'm going to be doing today, is just cover. Oh, actually I might not do it today. It's a little windy, but then again, when is it not windy? But I cannot get over how beautiful this bolted broccoli is. And this bolted bok choy, it's so pretty and it smells so good. This whole area is just really lighting up the garden. And I almost just want to like fill my entire garden with brassicas next winter so that they bolt in the spring and I have pretty blooms. We've had some amazingly warm weather and everything is taking off. These onion sets I planted are just going. They're actually looking better than the onions over there. Those little onions went through a lot at the beginning of their life with Freya, so I'm not too disappointed in them. And this is something I'm really excited for. My mint is already, peppermint specifically, is already starting to come back up. And I love mint tea. I can't get enough of it. I drink it all the time, so it's really great that I can grow my own again. But let me get out of this wind, because it is just terrible to try and talk to you guys. All right, so a couple more things I still need to do, like big projects that need to get done before April, are I need to fertilize all of the fruit trees, and I need to start a new pile of compost. So if you've seen my previous video on deep litter method with chickens, you'll know that I do use the deep litter method during the winter, and also during the summer months. I always have a base of wood chips in my chicken coop. But last summer I would rake the wood chips into a pile, throw all the food scraps on there, and just keep that pile moist, because it's so much easier to keep a pile of wood chips moist than like several tens of square feet of wood chips moist in my desert environment. And it broke down a lot quicker when I had them in the piles, but it also helped that I had the heat of the summer and water from my rain barrels. So for the winter, I just kept the deep litter method to keep the smell down, obviously, to keep it sanitary, and just create warmth for them during the winter months, because not a lot of compost is being created during the winter months. It gets too cold here. It freezes every night. So now that summer is ramping back up again, and it looks like I'm going to need more compost for my fall garden, I think I'm going to go through all of my supplies for this spring garden. I need to start making some. And that's going to be a completely separate video, because there's just too much information and work, and I don't want to make compost today. So I'm just going to spread the pine needles over the straw and turn on the drip system so I can water my potatoes. That's so cool. So all these projects have been taking up a lot of my time. I try and record it when I can for you guys. Unfortunately, it ends up being either a time lapse or something like this, where I'm going back after the fact, because trying to do like instructionals and using the camera while you're trying to get work done, it doesn't work the same way, and it ends up taking 2 hours longer than it would have normally. So thank you guys for being patient with me. I mean, it's not just farm work. I mean, I have a full-time job outside of this homestead to make money, and that takes up some of my time, and then of course regular household stuff. I mean, we're getting solar put on our house, which is exciting, but we're doing a lot of spring cleaning and updates to the property as well. So there's just a lot going on right now, and I do my best to bring you guys along. But I'm so glad you're here for what you are here for, and I'm so excited to begin gardening. I cannot wait to plant these plants in the garden with my new drip system. It's gonna be such a good year. I'm so excited. It's like really windy. Okay, I'm going inside. I gave some more plants away though to my grandpa and my mom yesterday. So I'm whittling it down, guys. I'm whittling it down. Until the next one. What are you doing?